Welcome back, and this week we have many exciting things to show you, starting with our new retro games reviews. Max Stone, The Secret of the Great Pyramid, an incredible ZX Spectrum adventure opens up our reviews, followed by A Pig Quest, one of the best action-adventure games ever to grace our Commodore 64s. Our hardware review examines one of the few flash cartridge options for our beloved Atari Jaguars, the Jaguar GD cartridge. In our DOS Vault, we discover the very entertaining action-adventure Perils of Treasure Mountain. We also remember one of the founders of the 3D FPS genre, the often forgotten nowadays Descent. Our retro adventures travels us to a dark magic land through the amazing point-and-click adventure game, the Telwynium, Book 1, Winter's Dawn. We also take a trip down memory lane in our Retrospect review to the noir and gothic comic book world of Noctropolis. Finally, our history lesson tells the story of a poor boy from Eastern London who climbed to the top of the world and managed to surpass the founder of an entire industry. This is the story of Alan Sugar and the Amstrad line of computers. So, let's get on with the show. We begin this week's new retro games reviews with Max Stone, The Secret of the Great Pyramid, for the ZX Spectrum by Flopping Play the Game. This is an action-adventure game with some of the best graphics you can find on the system and wonderfully balanced gameplay. This is actually a remaster of a version of the game first published in the popular Spanish magazine Micro Hobby magazine. The game has you set as Max Stone on a quest to uncover the secrets of the Great Pyramid and acquire its hidden treasures. Of course, the pyramid is filled with dangerous creatures, deadly traps, and tricky pitfalls bound to stop you. The graphics of the game are truly great, with wonderfully animated, even if monochrome, sprites and various beautifully drawn stages. The controls are a bit oversensitive, but you get used to it in time. The music and sound effects are superb and push the AY sound chipset to its limit. Gameplay is addictive, and thanks to a good balance and a unique system with hearts representing your health that you can replace by gathering more, it is never too difficult or too easy. This is a truly great ZX Spectrum game, and this version improves just about every little detail. The graphics are awarded a 9.3, the controls an 8.9, the music and sound effects a 9.4, and the gameplay a 9.2, for a total of 9.2. Max Stone is a wonderful Spectrum adventure that you shouldn't miss. If you loved Hajan Hawk's tune, "'Cause I Would Rather Be a Pig," then this is your chance. A Pig Quest is a superb action-adventure game for Commodore 64 by Piggy 18 Team, that brings out the maximum of the system, whilst making you burst into laughter more often than you might expect from a retro game. You play as Frank Further, a pig that really wished he could go on a quest, and when he accidentally falls into a cave, he is determined to turn his attempts to reach the surface into a great quest of the chosen pig, even if no one else cares. The game is a humoristic action-adventure that spans 200 screens along 5 worlds, a truly epic size, and is accompanied by some of the most amazing graphics and soundtrack you've ever heard coming out of the good old C64. You get to uncover treasures, upgrade your weapons, and acquire armors to help you with your mighty quest. There is dynamic weather to put some variety into the environment, and of course, lots of baddies to stop you along with a series of hazards. The game is filled with humor that is always spot on and hilarious without being silly. The game also features bosses and mini-bosses, whilst the controls are incredibly accurate and make playing the game a true joy. On to the rankings, and the graphics get a solid 9.5. The controls a 9.4. The music and sound effects a 9.4. And the gameplay a fair 9.5. For a total of 9.45. And the title of the Game of the Week. A Big Quest is solid gold and one of the best retro action adventure games, period. We have a little bonus game this week in the face of World of Spells by JPTL for the ZX Spectrum, and get ready to be amazed. This is a Doom clone for the ZX Spectrum. That's right, you heard me, a Doom clone. This game is truly a tech and programming marvel. Of course, don't expect textured walls and bitmapped enemies. The game is mostly represented by plain pixelized environments, but the end result is an amazing engine at 50 frames per second, 360 turnaround movement in a system that was not meant to be able to do such a thing. The game's gameplay is not too shabby too. This is a spectacular feat, and for that, we will award it a special 10 award. Simply unbelievable. It's true that there aren't many solutions for running backup games on Atari Jaguar. The Atari Jaguar did not have an easy life, and its afterlife is not so easy obviously as well. But here we are today to review the Jaguar GD cartridge, one of the very few quality solutions on the market. The Jaguar GD cartridge is not a cheap knockoff, as you will see. Now you have the USB port here that we're going to talk about later, and the SD card slot. Of course, it takes, just like any other cartridge, a micro SD card. There. Now, you plug in the cartridge just like any other one, and it works like a charm. Now, from what we can tell, the USB port is for future Jaguar Link support. The Jaguar GD cartridge does not support the CD-ROM games. Let's go see it. Now you are greeted by the main menu. You move around with a cross on the Atari gamepad. Choose a game directly, a ROM or a directory. I have divided my files here into directories. Let's go pick up a game. Let's say Wolfenstein 3D. Now you will notice that the time it takes for the flash process depends on the size of the ROM we choose. Sometimes it's really fast, sometimes it's really slow. The game loads flawlessly. Let's try it out a bit. For those of you who don't know it, the Atari Jaguar version of Wolfenstein 3D is one of the best, if not the best version on a console. I think it is surpassed only by the 3DO version, which is slightly faster and of course with a much better controller. Now, there are no problems here at all. As you can see, it runs smoothly, even though I'm walking around because of the controller like a drunkard. Okay, I think now it's time to go and try another game. The intro screen. Okay, and the game would be, well, the most famous Atari Jaguar game, Alien vs Predator. We follow the same process. Now this is a bigger game. You can flash it at a specific address or as a headerless ROM. You will notice it takes a while longer because of its size to flash the ROM. And here we are, after the Atari Jaguar intro screen. Quite charming. There, the game runs once again flawlessly. You will notice that there are no glitches or funny artifacts on screen, meaning full compatibility and a smooth experience. The game is one of the bigger games on a cartridge for the Atari Jaguar, so it takes a while longer, even with a flash card, to load the main game, but once it is ready, there. Runs like a charm. Now, if you're looking for a good game to play on the Jaguar, as truth is, from the classic collection there aren't many. I'm not talking about homebrew games, they're and indie games. There is a whole pack of treasures there to find. But from the classic games, Alien vs Predator is one you can't go wrong with. So, there is an option to upgrade the firmware on the cartridge by scanning a specific QR code and downloading the newer version. If you install it in the SD card, it will upgrade automatically. And having said that, let's go and sum it up. Now this is a wonderful cartridge and one of the few quality options for Jaguar. It will not set you back a lot of cash. It is very well built. It comes from Retro HQ. I definitely recommend it because it's easy to use, it's reliable, and it's 100% compatible as far as I've tested it. I think it's a wonderful option. There's no hassle in using it or installing it, and it's definitely 100% a thumbs up from us. The DOS Vault opened up to reveal this week's games. We begin with a review of the Perils of Treasure Mountain, an action-adventure game for the MS-DOS by Agen Lenk. You're a treasure hunter, and even though you have located the secret mine full of gold you've been searching for, during the night bandits stole your gear and weapons along with the essential for gaining entrance dynamite. But you'll get 'em back and make them pay. The controls are simple, utilizing the cursor keys and the space button. If you want to fire your weapon, you just press the space key and point in the direction of your enemies. There are many creatures, not to mention the bandits, bound to stop you, and you must plan your every move carefully. You must have both strategic thinking and quick reflexes to overcome most of the dangers ahead. The graphics are in CGA mode, and they are some of the clearer graphics for the good old card you can find. There is in-game music and sound effects, a rare thing for a game of these low-tech requirements, and not only that, but both are great. Perils is a game that initially seems like an overly simple premise, but once you start playing, you find out that its gameplay is actually deeper and more addictive than it looks. We will award the graphics with an 8. The controls get a 9. The music and sound effects a very good 8.5. And the gameplay a 9. For a total of 8.6. Dive into the Perils of Treasure Mountain and you won't regret it. In our Retrospect review this week, we remember the legendary and historically significant Descent by Parallax Software. Descent is a first-person 3D action game, and when we say 3D, we mean it. It was the first game to offer a true 360 movement, allowing the player to move freely in any direction, including any height or angle. It was something truly unique back in 1995, and it revolutionized the genre. Of course, such freedom of movement and view comes with a price, and there were quite a lot of people that complained that Descent makes them dizzy. But take heed that this was the first time a game used such an engine, and it was only natural to create some dizziness. The game was even one of the first to use correctly 3D glasses on the PC, an accessory that at the time was quite popular. Your game objective was usually to rescue hostages, eliminate enemies, and most of the time the stage ended successfully after you blew up the mine's main reactor. The game gave afterwards a limited time to exit the mine, lest you're blown to pieces along with it. The gameplay was exciting, and also a bit on the hard side. You could upgrade your weapons and ship, keeping the game fresh and interesting. The graphics were amazing for the time, with beautiful 3D textured models of the enemies that moved smoothly. The music created constant tension, and the sound effects were great. Descent was the first game to present a true step forward to the FPS genre long before Quake appeared, and if you haven't played it, we assure you that it's still an amazing and challenging experience worth having. The graphics get a 9.5. The controls a 9. The music and sound effects a 9.6. And the gameplay a 9.4. for a total of 9.4. Descent is the progenitor of the true 3D FPSs, and you should definitely revisit it or try it out if you haven't. It's a treasure of the past. For our review in our retro adventures, we bring you this week the Telwynium, Book 1, Winter's Dawn by Powerhoof. This adventure game uses a user interface similar to the ones found in the Sierra Online games of the early 90s, but it improves and simplifies it in every aspect. The game presents an elaborate and interesting dark fantasy tale with many twists as your character, a young shepherd, is caught in the middle of events that will change his world in epic proportions. The story is well written, and I personally can't wait to play the sequels. The graphics are EGA type and are really very well drawn, with great animation and excellent use of the 16-color palette. The game boasts very atmospheric and fitting music, whilst the sound effects, even though they are minimal as is the case in the adventure games usually, they are of great production value. The user interface is intuitive and easy to learn within 5 minutes, and really makes the game a pleasure to play. Even though it obviously takes inspiration from classic games like King's Quest IV or Quest for the Grail, the Telwynium is a game of its own, and it really shows the love and care that's been put designing it, giving high-quality commercial value vibes in every step. The graphics are awarded a 9.2. The controls a 9.5. The music and sound effects an 8.9. The gameplay a solid 9, for a total of 9.15. A dark and epic tale that's definitely worth your time. In our Adventure Games Retrospect, we look back into the unique, dark and often overlooked gem that was Noctropolis by Flashpoint Productions. This is a point-and-click adventure game that utilizes an original menu of choices in the form of a pyramid.
And so it begins.
It tells a dark tale of a metropolis sunk in darkness, its supervillains that torture the place, but also the tale of its tormented and mysterious heroes, whose shoes, after the main hero's retirement, your character comes to fill. Your character, Peter Gray, is dragged into a comic book world and must champion the darkness in order to save the noir city of Noctropolis. The game is filled with villains and superheroes in the fashion of Batman's Gothic style, and offers a unique atmosphere that was not met often back in the 90s in adventure games. The graphics are simply amazing for its day, and there is full speech in many points of the game along with pre-recorded actors that play at a professional level, even if a bit too serious sometimes. The game does include some mildly explicit scenes, so take care who you're playing it with. Valuable info for the story progress is also presented sometimes through the pages of an interactive comic book that is superbly drawn. The game's interface is a bit confusing at first, but with enough practice it shouldn't trouble you much. The game's puzzles are mostly logical and won't ask you to think way too much out of the box, even though some of them are a bit too hard or rely on abstract solutions. The music finally is amazing, with gothic and atmospheric tunes of the highest standards, and very good, although sometimes a bit cheesy dialogues. The graphics are awarded a 9.6. The controls a 7.8. The music and sound effects a 9.5. The gameplay an 8.8 for a total of 8.9. If you're looking for a dark and different adventure, Noctropolis will definitely satisfy your needs. Take on a beast and come out victorious. That pretty much sums up what Alan Sugar must have set as goal when he decided to try his hand at the home microcomputers market back in 1983. The beast being, of course, Sinclair Research, that at the time controlled more than 55% of the market in UK and a significant portion of the entire European market, with only the Commodore 64 standing as a real threat to them. The ZX Spectrum proved to be a money-printing machine for Uncle Clive, and it gave birth to the entire bedroom coders generation, and along with it, the European game software market. So, taking on against Sinclair was almost sacrilege for the British, and a suicide mission. But Alan Sugar was always a survivor. Born in 1947 in East London, and having spent his childhood in a council flat, Alan Sugar was no stranger to hardship. He left school at 16 years old to work for himself, and by his 21s, he has already set up Amstrad, an abbreviation of the words Alan Michael Sugar Trading, an import-export company. By the 1970s, he turned the company into low-cost, hi-fi manufacturing production, and by using the new technique of injection molding plastics, he managed to surpass every single competitor on the budget market in UK. But that was not the top Alan was aiming for. By the early 80s, the home microcomputers market was becoming increasingly popular, and after Sinclair's success, had become UK's financial steam engine, setting the country ahead even of the Americans and the Japanese. And Alan Sugar was not one to be left behind. Amstrad computers started life as a simple idea. Every home micro on the market offered a specific form of installation. You bought the main unit, and in order to use it effectively, you had to add a series of peripherals that was essential to get the full functionality out of your system. Those peripherals usually included a storage unit, either a tape recorder or a floppy drive, a monitor or TV set, lest you wanted to fight for the TV hours on your household. The sum of all the peripherals and the agony of choosing the right ones catapulted both final prices and complexity even for the cheapest systems such as the ZX Spectrum. All Alan had to do was implement his hi-fi all-in-one philosophy into the computer market, and surely that would be a hit. So, Amstrad's CPC line of computers was born, with CPC standing for Color Personal Computer, and it started with the famous CPC 464 model. The system was everything a ZX Spectrum fan wanted as an improvement for his system. It was a color computer, but capable of displaying 16 colors on screen with no color class. An AY3-8912 sound chipset to provide actual musical tunes and sound effects, and not that dreaded Spectrum beeper sounds. An integrated tape player and recorder, ready to use and in perfect tune with the system. And to complete the set, a green or color monitor as part of the package. The monitor unit was not only part of CPC 464, but was essential to the computer, as it also houses the PSU. The whole system used only 2 cables between the main unit and the monitor, minimizing the so-called spaghetti of cables that other systems brought with them. In the heart of the system there was a Zilog Z80A working at 4 MHz, and that brought a series of advantages along with it. First of all, the Z80A has a full and stable compatibility with its CP/M OS that was still the low-cost operating system for small businesses. Secondly, it provided almost 80% compatibility with Amstrad's main target and competitor, the ZX Spectrum, making conversion of games and programs from the latter to the former a simple case of taking advantage of CPC's more evolved systems to provide an enhanced and faster version of the software. Well, that was the theory, at least. To complement all this, a 64K RAM completed the system, a hefty amount at the time, for faster applications and better games. The whole system was marketed at £359 with a color monitor, or £249 for a green one. It does sound a bit steep when compared to the £175 of the 48K ZX Spectrum, but one must remember that it included literally everything one needed to work the system to the maximum, while Spectrum was just the bare-bones main unit. The market reception was warm, with the first few weeks having Amstrad selling out the stock. The plan was working. To promote the 464 Amstrad, launched a series of TV and magazine commercials throughout the country, and at the same time closed deals that would see the system sell in other major European markets, even in the US. CPC 464 found success, especially in France and Spain, that people really embraced the system as it fit their philosophy closer with the whole all-in-one logic. To complement all this, a series of magazines started publication, including the legendary Amstrad Action, that would become something of a Bible for the Amstrad users for many years to come. But the small home makers market was evolving, and it was turning into a full-fledged industry, and competition was hard, offering more and more, and technology was changing by the month. One major shift in the market was the more often use of floppy disk drives instead of the slow and unreliable cassettes for data storage, and Alan Sugar was not going to be left behind. By April 1985, it introduced the Amstrad CPC 664, an improved version of 464 with an integrated floppy drive in place of the tape recorder. It would seem that Amstrad was following the trend, but there were a few mistakes made here that would cost Amstrad in the long run. First, because Alan Sugar recently sealed a great deal with Matsushita and Maxell at a greatly discounted price for the purchase of 3-inch drives and discs, the 664 would use this format instead of Sony's more popular 3.5-inch. That would cut costs for Amstrad considerably compared to the competition, but it would lock the company in the long run in a format that was old and declining. The second mistake was the inception of the 664 itself. Firstly, the system did not provide one of the most requested features, an upgrade of the RAM to 128K. Secondly, Amstrad, because of the continuously falling prices of the memory chipsets, has already started working on a prototype that would include both improvements, the disk drive and the memory upgrade, making the 664 a needless, short-lived system that would infuriate those who run to buy it. Surely enough, that was the case, as 6 months later, Amstrad CPC 6128 was introduced, bringing along a more serious look, a 3-inch Matsushita drive, and of course 128K RAM, whilst providing full backwards compatibility with 464 should someone plugged in a tape recorder to the tape expansion port. This was the absolute CPC computer. This one would take on the beast. Infuriated 664 buyers aside, the CPC 6128 was an instant hit, stealing a large portion of Sinclair's market share and pushing Commodore 64 to a distant third place. 464's main problem was also going away with this new system. You see, the initial advantage of Z80's compatibility has turned into a problem in the first years of 464's life. Instead of offering an upgraded version of Spectrum's hits on the Amstrad platform, most software houses bypassed the advanced graphics and sound capabilities and offered a clone of the game that really made the 464 look like an unjustified purchase. But the 6128 was leaps and bounds ahead, and the gaming software companies took notice. By late 85, early 86, it was apparent also that Sinclair was facing serious financial problems that even the belated ZX Spectrum Plus 128K couldn't rectify. The writing was on the wall for the once dominant company. And then David took down Goliath. On the 7th of April 1986, it was announced that Amstrad purchased all rights to the Sinclair manufacturing name, stock, existing and future computers for the sum of £5 million. Alan Sugar had taken on the beast and won. Now he could look into the future and improve even his old nemesis' system. He would introduce to the world the Spectrum system in the right way, the Amstrad way. Soon, Amstrad introduced the ZX Spectrum Plus 2, a hybrid system that included all the advantages of the ZX Spectrum Plus 128K and the all-in-one philosophy of the CPC range. The Plus 2 was a major hit for Amstrad, not only catapulting sales for the Spectrum range of computers to the total of 5 million units, but also leading to the creation of the first, albeit not so successful, Spectrum with an integrated disk drive, the Plus 3. Sugar set his sights to a new market now, but would it be more than he could chew? In the same year, Amstrad entered the rising IBM PC compatible market with the introduction of the Amstrad PC 1512 computer. Again, following the same all-in-one philosophy, Sugar's company attempted to steal a market share from the likes of Compaq or even IBM itself. It quickly followed suit with an improved and faster model, the PC 1640. But the all-in-one Amstrad factor was coming into collision with a whole open architecture philosophy that the PC market was going to. The company did achieve a major hit with the PCW range of PCs, a system designed to accommodate the rising digital word processors market. It actually sold more than 8 million units, making it the most successful Amstrad computer ever. Back in the home computer market though, things were not going so well. The rise of the 16-bit computers with the likes of Atari ST and most importantly Amiga 500 took away the largest portion of 6128's sales. To make matters worse, the video game consoles that failed to infiltrate the European market a decade earlier made a comeback with Nintendo and Sega battling it out for a spot under the telly. Something had to be done in order to prevent Amstrad from becoming a new Sinclair and ending up the same. What followed was a series of mistakes and panic moves that would see the company exit the computer market altogether and return to its hi-fi roots. Firstly, to take on these 16-bit systems, Amstrad introduced the CPC Plus range, a new series of systems with major improvements, but still in the dying 8-bit category. Secondly, a consoleized version of the CPC Plus range was introduced to compete with the likes of the NES and the Sega Master System in the form of the GX4000 console. The CPC 464 and 6128 systems were 8-bit computers with enhanced capabilities that resembled more those of the 16-bit rivals, such as 31 colors on-screen graphics from a 4096 palette, 16 hardware sprites, DMA sound, analog joypad support, and even cartridge slots. All this in a modern redesigned case that better fitted the new decade. No doubt, the Plus range was a powerful upgrade that more closely resembled today's ZX Next than the 8-bit of those days. But it proved too little, too late in a market that was already controlled by the more powerful 16-bit behemoths. Very few titles ever supported the new system's capabilities, and the Plus range was phased out less than 2 years after its introduction. The GX4000 console did not fare better. The console was practically a CPC Plus in a compact case, with only a cartridge port, a gamepad and no keyboard. The gaming software companies were already stretched thin, trying to compete in the Nintendo-Sega ongoing war, and the underpowered 8-bit Amstrad console had no chance against the new video game beasts of the likes of Sega Mega Drive. The last nail on Amstrad's computer market coffin came with failures such as the overpriced Amstrad Mega PC that tried to combine an IBM PC compatible with a Sega Mega Drive, or the Sinclair PC 200, an attempt to bring the Amiga and Atari form factor to PC market with an underpowered computer. By early 1996, Amstrad had all but withdrew from the computer market as the unstoppable steam engine that is the modern PCs took over the market, effectively bringing the home computer micros era to an end. Alan Sugar, a Sear now for his contribution to the UK computer industry, sold Amstrad assets later, only to reacquire them recently and pass them on to his grandson. Amstrad and Alan Sugar achieved the impossible. The young poor lad from Eastern London took on the beast and not only won, but even for a brief period, climbed to the top of the computer world, leaving his mark there forever.